Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts here in the basement of Physique Magnifique. That's 387 Grand Avenue. Stop on by if you're ever in the area. This is the home of the Wandering Ronin. Or wait, would this be his second home? I'm not 100% sure how that works out. But this is where we train out of and where we do the things that we do, which isn't really much because for those of you watching, no, we do not have a set curriculum. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Less about the curriculum and more about the evolution of the art that you practice. How deep do you know the history of why you do what you do? Why does your art kick in that particular way? Why does your art punch in that particular way? What were the events that led up to that being the defining point or the defining detail of the way things are done in your art? Now, I only bring this up because there have been times in our training where one particular student can't do a certain thing a certain way, so modifications have to happen. We've heard stories of people quitting certain arts because they physically couldn't do the things that were being asked of them, so then they went to other arts. And we've even made mention that there are some classes, some schools that have very noticeable body types because of the way that they move, because of the way that they present their art, and those people can gravitate to it a little easier, so they stick a little longer. For some people it's a little harder, it's a little bit more difficult. But what's missing? What's happening there that doesn't allow them? Is it because the curriculum is set in such a way that you have to do it that way? You have to do it the way that it was taught, and if you can't, well, work harder at getting it done. And there are ways to kind of supplement those things. In my personal training, I do certain stretches that give me a better range of motion for my hips, so I can get my kicks a little higher, so I can get a little bit more stability in my core, so I'm doing core exercises. So those things you can do, but that's an individual basis. Otherwise, you'd have to incorporate strength training into your class and then develop somebody's physicality to match what you do, if you have the time. But not everybody does. So we started contemplating the idea of where do all these things come from, and it even made me think of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, I don't know the full story, I don't know the full names, so if I get it wrong, I get it wrong, but what little I know is that some dude in Japan had some ideas, nobody was listening to him there, so he moved somewhere else, ended up in Brazil, taught that dude Gracie, and either it was him or his sons that weren't very physically strong, or at least one of them wasn't. So jiu-jitsu evolved to be able to have less physical strength but still be able to take on larger opponents, and it developed into what it is today. And now it's wildly used in MMA, and it's one of the, I'm assuming, still fastest growing martial arts. You see a BJJ school almost every other corner. So the reason it was done that way was because of somebody's idea, whether their physicality or they just had a notion to say, okay, what if we try this instead of what's been traditionally taught? And then it was passed on to somebody who couldn't physically do what everybody else was already doing, what the established art was at that time. So it had to be changed, it had to be modified. But here's the thing. A lot of the BJJ practitioners nowadays, at least the ones that I see, are fairly fit and fairly strong, but yet they still do the things the way that they were taught because it's effective. They found a way to pass on not the physicality, but the mentality, the ideas and the concepts that make the art work. And then it became wildly used by a lot of people in different body masses. In my personal experience, recently I was asked to help some of my fellow students in Kaju Kempo learn some basic stick defense, 4 stick defense, 4 knife defense. Now, I could have just started with the way that I was taught and the art that I was given and started from the beginning, but I chose not to. And the reason behind that was I didn't want to start a different system to attach to what they already knew, but rather I wanted to just give them an idea that they could attach to the system that they're already doing. So I couldn't just start from the very beginning of the classes the way that we teach them, because that's starting over. That's day one. So instead I gave them one simple idea. Now, gunting, which from what I'm told means scissor, and that's this motion here, just scissor, just opening and closing. Now, the way that I learned it originally was based on Piketty Tersh's idea of the four walls, I believe, where we started roof blocking and blocking on one side, then all of a sudden we started talking about the idea of shield and sword. Okay, one's a shield, the other one's a sword. One takes a life, one saves a life. Concepts that I haven't even brought up to the students in Kaju Kempo, because all I really want them to understand is this movement. Now, we start off with two sticks, you meet, they attack in the middle, and as you open up, you meet in the middle, and one leads to the other. You change the plane, now you start doing for the lower angles. You change the plane again, and you can do it from the side. So now you have your horizontal attacks that you can block. But ultimately, the idea isn't really to do this with sticks, but just understand the movement. So I had to change the focus of it being a weapon-based idea to just understanding somebody has something in their hands, you want to make sure it doesn't hit you, you want to get to that hand as quickly as possible. So it becomes a single stick idea. Oh, well, there you go. Volunteer. Here, you. Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. He's my volunteer. He's not lovely, but he's here, so we're gonna use him. Because all it is just don't get hit by the stick. Somebody swings at you, you don't do anything, bam, you get hit. That's it, right? Somebody swings at you, you move out of the way, you don't get hit. But that doesn't always necessarily stop it from coming back. Okay, so now he swings, I block. Essentially, it's oh shit moment, that didn't hit me, but again, it still hasn't stopped it. So the two-handed motion then becomes here. I'm trying to get the control here. Why? Because now he can't pull back, he can't attack again, and even if he does, I have a free hand and I'm just beating the crap out of him as best I can. The idea is to immobilize this, either by thrashing it, letting it pass and thrashing it on the way back, but ultimately having enough control of it that it can't come back and harm you. And the reason why that became the idea behind it is because we already do footwork in Kaju. We already have strikes where we're up close. We have punch arts and grab arts that then we can start incorporating. So I've only focused on this movement. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. For the students, for my fellow students in the class, because ultimately that's all they really have to do for the curriculum itself. Then I gave them free range to then starting add their own versions of what they would do. They know what to do at a closer range. They know what to do at a further range. So they can start adding their kicks, their punches, based on what they want to do and feel they should do. There's been many times where in class, we mess up. We do the wrong grab art, we do the wrong punch art. But the thing about it is that the way that I was taught, none of it is wrong, as long as it worked. But when it's a curriculum based, well, yeah, they want to see a specific set of movements, a specific technique. So in that sense, it could be considered wrong. But even GM Bob says it's not wrong as long as it works. Sure, we want to see the curriculum. So his teachings really accent the way that we teach, in that there really isn't anything that's wrong. Now you start creating your own thing based on your body size. One of the guys that I'm training with is 6'1". The other person that I'm training with is 5'1", 5'2", and less than 100 pounds. So there has to be these changes that happen, because what one of them can do, the other person can't try to emulate, because it's not going to work for them. Especially when you change his range and now you start using knife. Same idea, except now you have a knife, they have a knife. Or you have no knife and they're still attacking you. Letting that pass by, stopping it, and making sure that you have that open-close idea where one is up, one is down, and you take control of that as quickly as you possibly can. Break it if you can, but meanwhile striking with everything else that you have for the sake of protecting yourself. Because ultimately, that's all I'm really teaching them, is this one motion. that's the modification that I had to do for each of the individuals that are training with me or alongside me. And in class, that's how we progress. That's how Rick has progressed what we do. There is a progression. It's easy to say he teaches A, B, C, D, E, and so on and so on. But the thing about it is that Rick allows us to bring our own outlook. Now, that becomes a very crucial thing because when he gives a class, say 4 to 8 students, he'll give a general idea. All right, this is what we're going to do today. Open and close idea. That's it. We call it gunting. Here's how we develop it. Here's how we then practice it. Now we start adding footwork. And then at the end of it, we take all that away, give them padded sticks and say, make it work. In real time, in real life. Why? Because we spent that time as we were drilling going to each individual student and making modifications for that particular student. Some of them are tall, some of them are smaller, some of them are a little quicker, some of them are, I don't want to say slower, but maybe it takes them a little longer to get what it is that we're talking about. And that's the point, is we try to get the individuals to understand what it is they're trying to do, so then they can do it better for themselves, their own way. Ultimately, this is all it is. But how effective it becomes will depend on whether or not they understand when and where to use it, how best to use it for their body type. And that takes an individual focus for each person. So then the question is, have you, respectfully, whether openly or just in your mind, question why you do the things that you do? When your instructor shows you something, is there some sort of modification that they have to do because of their body, because something's tweaked, because something's hurt? Or are they trying to emulate exactly how it was taught to them? The person that taught them, did they have any things that they had to change or modify that are now part of the curriculum, that are now part of the entire teachings? And if we can understand those whys, where, then we know when to use it and how better to use it. It's all about just understanding. And again, it just makes you question things. Like, where did these arts come from? Who made them the way that they are? And why did they make them that way? What was the reason behind it? A lot of those stories are very fascinating, but they also give a great insight as to why the art is the way that it is. And if we can understand that, then we have a better and clearer vision of what it should be, or how we, as the individuals, can make it so. Yeah. Just an idea, something to consider, something to talk about. Before I go, I do want to mention Mike Cardenis's, was it VEA Collaborative? It's coming up. Was it April 20th? I remember the date. Yes, in Manteca. So it is coming up. It is one of the 2 big VEA collaboratives that he does. He does smaller classes throughout the year as well, but this is a big one. For those of you who missed the last one in winter, or this winter, was it November? Please come to this one. You have the date now. I'm giving you plenty of time. Make sure you put it on your calendar. Check out VEA Collaborative on Facebook. Reach out to Mike Cardenas directly. It is a great gathering of a lot of cool arts, and he's very open to bringing in new people. So if you know somebody that could benefit or would like to share his art that may not be well known, talk to Mike. He might be able to make a room for you. I don't know if you have the full list of the people that are set for there, so there might be some openings. Hope to see you there, but if I don't, I'll at least see you here on another one of Nain Shorts. So, to the next one. 3, 2, 1, Gunting.